Welcome to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Now, into the program.
Gracious greetings, and you are tuned in to another edition of Community Voices. I'm Tarence Lauchie, and we're at 91.9 FM WDPW, the People's Choice. I'm excited to talk to Ms. Lakiya Thompson-Jenkins today. She's the Executive Director of Linc Up here in the city of Grand Rapids. We're going to be talking about affordability as it relates to housing, as well as some other community development projects that's happening, just to keep you in the know of what's going on in and around our city. Ms. Lakiya, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you taking the time to participate in this interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here to talk to you more about who I am and Linc Up.
Great. Well, congratulations, I think, is in order for the new appointment.
Yes, I've been in this role since September of 2021, so enjoying this kind of first year in this position, excited about it, but committed to the work, been with the organization for 12 years.
Wow. So how has it been transitioning to leadership? You probably started out one way and now you're at the top of the
yeah,
food
so
chain,
definitely came in just eager to be engaging with the community and have been blessed to be able to move up continuously and be promoted, and for my leadership, my past leadership, to see my capacity and see my passion, and was fortunate enough when the opportunity came about for me to apply for the executive director position. I went ahead and did so, and the rest is history. I'm here today.
So you are a success story in the making,
Absolutely.
as they would say, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to know you. I'm glad that there's some things happening in the community. Tell us a little bit about Linc Up and the communities that you serve. We'll talk about Rock the Block. I've had a chance to experience that event. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, tell us about Linc Up and what Linc Up does. Or Linc, goes by a couple of different names. But tell us about it.
Yep, so our official name is Linc Up Nonprofit Housing Corporation. Linc is a neighborhood revitalization organization. We are all about connecting community to opportunities, and we do that really from 4 different facets. And so a lot of us know us as an affordable housing developer, so we develop quality affordable housing for both rent and for purchase. So we do home sales as well, so we're always looking to help residents build wealth through home ownership. We also do workforce development, and so we work by bringing employment opportunities to the community. We want to remove any barriers that folks might have to being able to find gainful employment, and so we bring employers out to the core city, Madison Square, Southtown, and we help residents find employment. So
Madison Square, Southtown is your primary?
That is our primary focus. We are a county-wide organization when it comes to our affordable housing. So we have affordable housing in Grand Rapids, we have it in Eastern and Franklin, we have it in Kentwood, we have it in Wyoming, but our roots are within Madison Square. That's kind of where we started, and that is the community that we are highly committed to.
So that's considered Southtown?
That's considered Southtown, correct.
Great. Tell me a little bit about how you connect. Linc Up is a very appropriate name. How do you connect with other community organizations and developers to make the magic happens when it comes to affordable housing? Because there's a history that says otherwise, for our people of color, and you're doing something to make a difference now. Yeah,
so Linc Up, as our name implies, we are all about connecting people to opportunities. So like I was saying about our workforce development, like today we have Spectrum Health on site doing on-site interviews for job opportunities.
So there's a connection between housing and employment.
And then the other 2 pieces that we do are civic engagement. So we want residents to understand that their voice matters and that we want them to be actively involved in local politics and understanding who their representatives are and holding them accountable. And then we do advocacy work where we look to shape policy that creates broader impact and greater equity within our communities.
Awesome. That would include entrepreneurship?
Yes, entrepreneurship is big. We want to support small businesses. We want them to be at the table, and we want to see ownership by particularly Black folks.
Terrific. Who are some of the officials that you're working with? I know that if you're in Southtown, there's a district, but you probably cross a couple of districts with Linc Up, am I correct?
Yeah, we cross a couple of districts, and so we have some different partnerships. So like on some of our advocacy work, we work with the Grand Rapids Urban League, we work with the Grand Rapids NAACP, we work with UCC, we work with the ACLU of West Michigan. When it comes to our employers, we work across the board with different employers. We just want to make sure our employers are looking to not only hire people of color, but retain them. That's important as far as our relationship. We don't want to just get folks in the door and they be released within 90 days. We want them to have gainful employment and be able to shift, their environment based on employment. We partner with as many people as possible. We are blessed to have a community space, and within that community space, we try to be intentional about bringing various different resources that are needed by our community members to that space. And so we internally host about 80 events a year. Wow. But that space, if you ever drive down Madison and you look into our parking lot, that space is usually being utilized throughout the week and on the weekends.
Yeah, I think that's noble. For those who are possibly just tuning in or maybe just kind of dialing, I'm talking to Miss Lakiya Thompson-Jenkins, who is the new executive director or the executive director of Linc Up, and the neighborhood and community development work that she's doing or has done makes an impact. What is your passion behind this? Why this line of work? I mean, you went to Davenport.
I did went to Davenport.
Yep. So you had the opportunity to probably select various career avenues. Why did you go into community development?
And so I initially didn't. So I'm born and raised here in Grand Rapids, product of Grand Rapids Public Schools. Go Polar Bears, Creston High School alumni. Okay. And I actually went to school for human resources. So my background is human resources. I enjoy training and developing people. I love seeing people realize their individual potential. But I am the granddaughter of a social worker, and I have been embedded into the community and to be a community advocate and to understand that people are situated where they're at, not by just their personal choices, but by the system as well. And so how to dismantle that. And so I kind of came into this work because it's just what I was called to do, and I felt that tug, and I am deeply invested, and I want to see change, and I want to be able to shift things so that when my son and my grandchildren, they're not pushing back and not having the same conversations that I saw my grandmother have in the 90s that I'm still having now, later on in life. 30 years later.
The mid-2000s. Well, talk a little bit about that calling and passion. You mentioned, your faith and your belief that you were called to do this. You mentioned, a little bit off air that you believe this is your calling. Oh, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about it. I mean, it's a Christian-based station, so we have people who would say amen.
Yep, and I'm definitely a believer. And I just believe that, God has called me and has equipped me with the heart and the compassion and the empathy and the drive to really just meet folks where they are at and understand some of our historic issues and understand that that Jesus walked in a way where he was a servant, and I consider myself a servant leader in all of that I do. And so I believe that in this season of my life that this is the work that I should be doing, and I'm committed to that. And again, I saw my grandmother do it, and I saw how important it was to her, and I saw the impact that she had on others' lives.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What impacted you the most to make you choose this?
I just understood how favored I was, understood how blessed we were, understood that everyone did not have the access to opportunities that I had, and that was not necessarily a fault of their own, and that it's important that I really equal that playing field as much as possible, and that everybody's deserving, and that everybody has the same innate desire to thrive, and everybody wants their family to be healthy. I mean, we all want the same things in life, and that, circumstances aren't always about personal decisions and personal choices. There are other factors that come into play, and so I want to make sure that I'm supporting people so that they can get to a place where they're thriving and they're healthy.
Well, it sounds like a passion. It sounds like it was birthed and supported by a legacy.
Yes, absolutely.
With that, right?
So I hope she's looking at me proud.
Amen. Amen. What do you remember most growing up here in the city of Grand Rapids? And if you've seen the changes, with organizations like Linc Up, is how old is the organization?
So we were incorporated in 2000. So we are 22 years young, I would say. But we have evolved as an organization, obviously, since then. Started off historically just trying to be an affordable housing organization, and then realized probably 10 years into it that is just one piece of kind of revitalizing communities. And so we kind of shifted to a more holistic approach where we realized that we could not just place people in these beautiful homes and not support them outside of that, right? And so we started doing the workforce development. We started doing the advocacy, the policy change, trying to get them to be civically involved, because we understand healthy communities have communities where people are engaged, they're involved. And so we didn't want to just be plopping homes down in these spaces and walking away from folks and saying, now you're on your own. We want to support them throughout, their process.
Let's pinpoint the word community. It could be a verb or a noun. It obviously is both to you, but in your vocabulary, what do you see the ideal situation if we were to fast forward to the future and you worked yourself out of a job?
That's my goal.
Exactly. Well, in human services, that's exactly what we all do, is try to make it so that we're not needed and people are empowered to do their own thing and help others. But what does community look like? Let's just take that journey. What is the ideal community situation if you were to work yourself out of a job? What would be the end result?
Yeah, I mean, I think a ideal community is a community where equity is at the forefront, right? And that folks are, not, being judged, that there's educational opportunities, that there are workforce opportunities, that there's home ownership opportunities. All the things that you see in thriving communities are accessible by everyone, right? And so a community has a strong public education system. Families have access to affordable childcare. Families have access to affordable housing. There's a living wage. I mean, it's many different factors.
Healthcare,
all of those, access
mental
to all that,
well
all of those things. But I think it's really a community that equity is at the forefront, and that people feel that they can thrive in that space, and there aren't barriers from to their success. And I think right now we there will be people, and there will definitely be populations within our city where they still are up against a lot of barriers to their thriving and their success, and we want to remove those things.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people's advancement and success is at the expense of others.
Absolutely.
And so that's where the disparity or the inequities come in, and I think that you're on the job to resolve that.
Yep.
Let's talk about some of the events and some of the programs, projects. If I lived in that community, how do I contact you, that type of thing? Or if I even desire to move to that community, if affordable housing is the thing, do I start there and say, hey, what do you have available?
Yeah, I mean, you can start anywhere. We call ourselves a one-stop shop. So if we don't offer that particular initiative or program, we would love to connect you to whoever it does. We have what we call community liaisons on staff, who their core job is to literally walk around with a resource guide of all the organizations who are doing good work in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids has some great nonprofits, some great folks doing great work, and so we want to make sure that we're connecting folks and keeping folks abreast to what's happening. But if you're interested in home ownership, or you don't think you can become a homeowner, come see us. We have a home ownership pipeline. We work with people, whether you're at A or if you're at C. If you never even pulled your credit report and you don't know if you can qualify for home ownership, we'll walk you through that process. If you've already pulled your credit and you've already got pre-approved for a loan and you know exactly how much you qualify, we have staff to work with you to help you find a home in this crazy kind of economic home ownership system. So we have all of that. So we do monthly kind of home ownership. We call them dinners, where we have lenders and we have folks from ICF come in there and do first time home ownership education. And we bring all those resources and all that information again to one space. And we allow people to make those connections because we understand how important that is. If you're looking or you're concerned about what's happening in your community and you're seeing these things and you're looking to activate in a way where you can have your voice heard, come to our pre-city commission meeting. So before every Grand Rapids City Commission meeting, we host a dinner where we educate people how to be involved at that table. We give them information about Robert's Rules of Order and how those things work and when you can speak down there, who your commissioners are, what the commission does, all that stuff. And we help educate folks on how to participate in that level. So I would say if you're interested in being involved in the community, stop by and we'll make sure that you're connected to, those different various facets on how you can be involved.
Terrific. Well, Miss Lakiya Thompson-Jenkins is who we're talking to. She's the executive director of Linc, or Linc Up as we know it. Mm-hmm. There's some events that you guys host on a regular basis. One big one that COVID kind of, put out of commission, but it's coming back. Talk to us a little bit about the infamous drum roll, please, rock the block.
Yes. So Linc is coming back to the block. So we are super, super excited to be back on the block coming up Saturday, June 11th from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. So if you've never been to Rock the Block is the street festival of street festivals here in Grand Rapids. We shut down Madison Avenue between Hall and Oakdale Street, and we just immerse it with vendors, live entertainment, local small businesses, food, all that you can think of, all the culture that is connected to our community, specifically Southtown, is going to be there. So we have about 80 or 90 so vendors already registered for the event, looking for some good food. We got barbecue, looking for some good treats. We got, elephant ears, all that stuff, looking for great entertainment. We have everything from hip hop to gospel to African, historic African music. We have it all. So join us. This is a family-free event. Bring everybody out. We are just looking to have a good time, and we are just so excited that after 2 years, we can come back and just create that space where community can come together and they can build relationship and they can get to know one another and they can find out about all the great things that are going on.
Yeah, I think it builds a sense of community, the verb, not the noun, in a way that is foreign to some other communities. Yep. I mean, we have a tendency as people of color to create village mentality, and music plays a part, food plays a part, culture plays a part. I've been blessed to experience it. There's a gospel set that you do where some gospel artists have been there. My kids have been involved. They're all grown adults, but they've been involved as well. So it's a big thing. Is that a Juneteenth celebration? It's not a
Juneteenth celebration. Right. So we basically, Rock the Block is our kind of homage to the old Madison Street Fair that was here around before kind of Linc was around. And that stopped years ago, and we wanted to kind of reactivate with our own flavor to it.
Absolutely. And it's diverse. It's got quite a bit of different culture.
It's very, very, very diverse. Excited about all the kids stuff we have going on this year. I mean, we have some great sponsors. I mean, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I've walked through, and there's senior services, there's resources,
everything.
There's clinicians, there's therapists, there's
jobs.
All kinds.
We're gonna have everything. We're gonna have some basketball skill contests. So come out and show what you can do on that court. All of that. I mean, it's just a great event. We got stuff for the small kids. We're going to have PBS Kids out there. We're going to have the bounce houses, the face paint. It's going to be everything. So we'll just be praying for good weather and just super excited to be back engaged. We've been so disconnected throughout COVID, and we haven't had a chance to see people in the flesh. Sure. And so super excited to be back in the space, back together.
Well, that's one of the greatest ways to get the exposure to those entities that are out there, the partners, the Linc Up community. What else should they know about Linc Up? Maybe some contact information as well. We do have more time to talk, but I just want to make sure that somewhere we drop this so that they can start Googling you.
Yep. So you can visit our website. So our website is www.lincup, so LINC as in car, up.org. Visit our website. Visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/LincRev, so REV. We've gone through a few name changes in the last 10 years, so some of our stuff is not completely aligned, or look up Linc Up, search it in the URL, and you should find us rather quickly.
Yeah. How does Linc Up connect? And you've been in the position now for a little while. with what has been happening in our community? And you know that question is coming. We've got some issues as it relates to the police and the community's interaction with the police. We've had a police shooting, and those things weigh heavy on the community in a lot of different ways. Talk to us a little bit about Linc Up's role, or even your perspective as executive director. How should the community and the police connect?
Oh yeah, I mean, so that definitely weighs on us as an organization heavily. It weighs on me as a mother of an African American son, as an African American woman, as a sister to a daughter to African American. I mean, I mean, I think it weighs on me personally, and it weighs just on my mission and value of who I am, right? But as an organization, we are a racial equity organization, and so. When we see interactions like this, or we see, when we hear about the trauma that our community is dealing with, it is at the forefront of the mission that we do. And so in particular, we have an initiative called the Community Owned Safety, and that is in partnership with the NAACP of Grand Rapids, the Urban League, the Urban Curl Collective, and ACLU. And the one of the things that we're doing is working to really reimagine what policing looks like to our community. We understand that there are some historic things in place where when policing was first, developed, that did not include people of color. It was not built for us. So how can it service us well? And so we are getting feedback and taking all that we have learned over the years to be able to have the communities decide what it is that they want to see and how they want to be policed. We hosted actually our new police chief yesterday in a forum where we have residents come out and be able to express some of their concerns.
Like a town hall?
Yep.
Let's pause and talk a little bit about that. What was the outcome of that conversation?
So this is our second time that we've hosted the police chief. Unfortunately, because of what happened with Patrick, and that the case, that there's litigation and stuff is still pending, he was not able to answer a lot of those questions.
Sure.
And so a lot of our community is feeling harm, and they're feeling the pain of that. And so they have that frustration. But it's been good dialogue.
I was going to say, at least the platform is set.
The platform is set. The dialogue is set. We are going to continue to try to encourage that. We're going to continue to try to encourage our police chief and our officers all across the board to show up and to listen to the voices and listen to the experiences of the community.
Are the neighborhood associations independently members of Linc Up? How does that work? Because I know that Oakdale community, and then you've got different communities. How does that work?
Yeah, so we're not a member organization, but we definitely support the neighborhood associations because they do good work. But we're not a member organization. They kind of, are their own separate entities.
So they were all a part of this dialogue or this conversation?
So there might have been some folks in the room, but they weren't necessarily a part of kind of the organizing of it.
Got it.
So that took place, and like I was talking about earlier, when we do our bi-weekly city commission trainings, one of the things that we do is try to be intentional of bringing people into that space, and so we were able to get the police chief to come out to talk to residents in that space.
I think that's good. Where do you see that heading?
I'm remaining hopeful. I'm remaining hopeful that that there's some great things happening. I mean, so we have activists on the ground who have been showing up in every meeting possible and have been keeping Patrick and keeping some of the other things that have happened and other experiences that Black and brown folks have experienced here in Grand Rapids at the forefront of the conversation, which is so important.
Vital.
And then as organizations, we're trying to organize and figure out ways that we can effectively make change through policy and through kind of some of that kind of higher kind of grass tops work. So just really making sure that we're working all of our angles and we're working our inside outside game, and just
I like how you put that grass tops, because most people say, oh, we're grassroots.
Yeah.
It's obvious that you are grassroots in the community, but if you can get to the top, you can make some influence there, because there's dollars and there's sense and there's influence. There's influence. In your tenure as executive director, what would you like the organization to be known for?
I want us to be known as an organization that's authentic, that is being led by and driven by community voice. We want to be an organization that honors the community and honors the work that we do. We understand that we have no intention of being saviors. We want to be an organization that listens, and that shows up and utilizes our capacity, our influence, to the betterment of those who have been historically marginalized and harmed.
Sure. How do you address the negativity of the fallout, the trauma? There's a lot of negativity. There's even some lethargic sense of being lethargic. I think after COVID, everything was shut down and people were not out and moving and going and active and doing. So how do you address that? Or how do you, as a professional, deal with that? You got staffs, you got teams.
Yeah, we got all that, and we just encourage people to keep showing up. I mean, this the race is, not given to the swift. You got to endure.
Now you quote some scripture.
Right. You have to endure. And it's heavy work, and it can be very oppressive because the same people who are harmed the most are at the forefront in doing this work and pushing it forward. And that is a heavy lift for us sometimes. And it gets discouraging. It gets frustrating. But we just have to continue to press forward, and we have to continue to have hope. And the more we educate ourselves, the better we can be able to effectively create change in those spaces. But then we also need allies. We need allies in this work to educate folks in this community. We need allies in this work to help us shape the narrative and shift things and to show up and to speak on our behalves as well. Because it gets tiring for sure.
Yeah. You sound optimistic. You sound like there's hope.
You know what? Because I'm a woman of faith, I have to hold on to that hope, and I have to hold on that this work is not in vain, and that if we can, change one person's mind, we can continue to have, create an effect where things start shifting, even if this incremental shifts. But I understand that this work is heavy and that it's a huge lift. But I think that there's the right people are up for the job. And like I said earlier, I feel like I am called for such a time as this. And I continue to show up and allow God to use me and be my authentic self and be the best I can be in this space.
Great. Well, you're an influencer, obviously, and you've made an impact so far. Because I'm hearing good things. You were in a conversation yesterday. I told you that off air that I was just talking to somebody and they mentioned you in a very positive light. Yeah. Great. What would you like our listening audience to know about you? And maybe you can even send some shout outs. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Some shout outs to the teams because you got people who do a lot of work to make you successful in your role.
Yes. No, I have an amazing team. So shout out to the whole team at Linc Up. We have a great team. We have a small team. We are a family. I am blessed to have been at this organization for 12 years, and I will say that this is an organization that I feel like I'm at home with. I feel like I can be myself. I don't feel like I need to code switch. I don't feel like I need to shift who I am. I don't feel like I feel like I can have tough conversations, and I truly and authentically and genuinely feel that the people who are employed and who show up to work every day. This is their passion. This is what they want to do. They don't just show up for a paycheck.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we couldn't pay folks enough or for the work and the sacrifice that they make. Just money is just not, So
it's definitely a calling attached
it's a calling.
to it.
It's definitely a calling.
So your team
there's long nights, early mornings, and I text folks on the weekends when stuff pop up, and so I appreciate all the work, their commitment, and just how they show up for the community. Shout out to my mama.
I was gonna say any heroes or sheroes.
Shout out to my mama just for who she is for birthing me. My grandmother.
She did a great job with that, right?
My grandmother, like I said, Leona Spencer. She is. I am her.
She's an advocate. I remember Leona Spencer.
Yes,
She's
I am
an advocate
her.
for education.
She is an advocate for everything. I am her. I am becoming her, and it's scary some days. And my mother reminds me of how I am becoming her mother.
My goodness, that's a compliment.
Yes, but it is definitely a scary thing to consider because my grandmother was always just this.
I remember meeting her when I first came to the city 20 years ago, and she was dealing with, of course, voter registration, encouraging people to vote. But she was working specifically with the academic requirements for the athletes in the public school. And she was talking to all the pastors of the city and individually. And she came to me with handwritten notes about advocating for students.
And probably demanding that you did because she didn't play.
Exactly.
She probably didn't give you a choice.
Well, she had a commanding presence, but very sweet though.
Yeah.
Very serious and sweet. And so so if you're a chip off that block, you're in for something good.
Absolutely. I am my first job was as her secretary. I remember very clearly typing notes for her, some of her meetings on the typebwriter.
Right, because she hand wrote everything.
Yeah.
I saw
and her handwriting was like a doctor's, and so
she would send me letters, handwritten letters.
I was able, as I got older, I was able to interpret some of that cursive. So I'm so grateful to, I come from great stock, and
yes.
I definitely have not gotten here on my own, but I'm just grateful for the trail that she blazed and what she instilled in us, and how I know that she is my influence, and
awesome.
and what I do and how I show up is a lot based on what I saw her do and how I saw her show up for people.
Well, that's a great compliment in homage to your heritage. So
absolutely.
Thank you again for being here, Miss Lakiya Thompson-Jenkins, Executive Director of Linc. And it has been a pleasure speaking to you, finding out what's going on. Again, Rock the Block is going to be June 11th from 11 to 6 p.m. And if you know anything about the urban core of our community, that's one of the biggest events that has happened here in Grand Rapids, and it's back.
Yes, back on the block. We look forward to seeing you there. Bring the whole family out.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today here on Community Voices.
Thank you so much.
Great. I'm Tarence Lauchie, and you've been listening to Community Voices with Lakiya Thompson-Jenkins, and we've been talking about Linc Up and all of the resources. But stay tuned for even more conversations about the things that are happening in and around the Grand Rapids area. God bless.
You've been listening to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. Community Voices can be heard every Friday at 12 noon. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest, or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Until next week, let your voice be heard in the community.